I never imagined that my journey from humble beginnings to empire would redefine success. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The storm was brewing, unrelenting in its fury. Rain hammered against the roof, drowning out every sound but the chaotic rhythm of my heart. My fingers trembled on the edge of the table, barely able to grasp the weight of the eviction notice that lay there. A stark reminder of how quickly life can spiral into chaos. I was just a girl from the smallest town, where dreams often collided with the harsh reality of bills and broken promises. My family, a patchwork of love and sorrow, fought to stay afloat. My mother worked 2 jobs, her hands rough and tired, yet every sacrifice she made was a silent anthem of hope. My father, absent. The void he left was like a gaping wound that never healed. "Don't worry, Lily, we'll figure it out," Mom used to say, her eyes a mixture of determination and despair. It was always her voice, steady and reassuring, that kept the fragile threads of my childhood from snapping completely. But that night, as I stood alone, the air thick with silence, the hope she had sown into my spirit began to unravel. Outside, the wind howled like a wounded creature. I could hear the muffled sobs of my neighbors, the ones who had lost even more than me. A sudden crash of thunder sent chills racing down my spine. I pressed my palm against the cool window, heart racing with fear. What if we lost our home? What would my life become? A face filled with tears stared back at me, the uncertainty etched deep. Just then, a figure emerged through the rain. Hooded and obscured, they seemed to glide across the street. There was something almost ethereal about them. My heart beat faster. What were they doing out there in this tempest? Then the figure stopped, turned towards my window. I gasped, feeling a chill grip my heart. The eyes, they were piercing and bright, glowing like tiny lanterns in the dark. I could hardly breathe. Who was this person? My chest tightened. Had they come to help or to bring more trouble? Couldn't tell. A flicker of movement was that a hand raised. Suddenly, the city lights flickered, caught between darkness and illumination. "What's happening?" I whispered, more to myself than anyone. I felt like a ship tossing in rough waters, clinging to uncertainty, fighting through the storm. My thoughts spun wildly. Was this a sign? An omen? I needed something, anything, to pull me from the depths of this desperation. But here, all I had was an unfamiliar figure staring back at me. What did it mean? Why were they here? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon, and while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The storm raged on, yet the world outside was now blurred, water streaming down the glass like the tears I yearned to shed. The figure remained, a still beacon amid the chaos. My heart thundered in sync with the storm, battling against the silence that enveloped me. I could feel the air crackling with anticipation as my mind wrestled to make sense of the scene before me. Then, the hooded stranger took a step back and disappeared into the shadows of the alley. For a moment, my breath caught in the tumult of confusion and longing. Had they been real, or just a figment of my overwhelmed imagination? I leaned closer to the window, peering into the dark, desperate to reclaim the connection that flickered for only an instant. But the night swallowed them, leaving only the relentless pounding of the rain and the thrum of my restless heart. With trembling hands, I turned away from the window, the weight of the eviction notice still pressing down on me. A cold realization settled in. Each tick of the clock brought us closer to losing the only home I had ever known. My refuge was slipping through my fingers. Not now, I thought, forcing myself to steady my breath. My mother needed my strength now more than ever. I found her in the kitchen, soaking wet from the downpour and shivering slightly, even as she peeled potatoes for our dinner. Her face, tired yet resolute, lit up with a weak smile when she saw me. "Hey Lily, it's just a little rain. We've survived worse, right?" she said, her voice tinged with a fragile hope that I desperately wanted to believe. I wanted to assure her that everything would be all right, but how could I? The eviction notice clung to me like a shadow, whispering its stark reality. Instead, I pulled a chair close to her, offering what little comfort I could muster. "Mom, we'll figure it out. I promise," I urged, trying to channel her steadiness into my own voice at that moment. A sharp knock echoed through the house. We froze, exchanging a glance loaded with dread. Who could it be? I steeled myself, heart racing, as I opened the door to reveal an elderly neighbor, Mrs. Thompson, clutching a basket filled with freshly baked bread and a thermos of soup. "Lily, your mother," she exclaimed, her eyes gleaming with concern amidst the storm. "I brought you something warm. I thought you two might need it." My heart swelled at the small act of kindness. "Thank you, Mrs. Thompson," I breathed, suddenly overwhelmed by a wave of gratitude. It felt like a lifeline thrown in the middle of a tempest, and I could see the weariness in Mom's face ease slightly. We invited her in, and as we huddled together around the table, sharing warm soup and stories that danced around the heavy silence of our fears, I felt the flicker of something hope. It merged with the shadows, threading its way back into the fabric of our lives. Even in the darkest night, there were flickers of light that as Mrs. Thompson left. She slipped a folded note into my hand. "In case you need anything, dear, don't hesitate to ask." I opened it when the door closed behind her, revealing a neatly written message. "The future holds surprises. Keep your heart open." Those words lingered with me, urging me to reconsider the stranger in the storm. The chill of uncertainty began to fade, highlighted by a small, persistent ember of hope. Just as despair clawed at me, suddenly, an unexpected flicker of possibility sparked within my chest. Yet, as the night deepened and the howling wind grew louder, a new toll echoed in the air, a sudden crash, followed by splintering wood. The back door had burst open, flinging itself against the wall with an explosive sound. My heart dropped. Who or what could it be? Steeling myself, I exchanged a glance with my mother, who stood frozen in disbelief. There was no mistaking it now. This night seemed determined to unravel every thread of normalcy. I took a cautious step toward the door, breath shallow and heartbeat racing, as I swung it open to reveal darkness. But in that darkness, I felt the presence of someone. A figure stepping out from the shadows. The bright eyes from earlier flashed back to me, flickering against the dim light of the street. "Lily." Their voice wrapped around me like a shroud, unmistakably familiar yet haunting in its urgency. "We need to talk." In that instant, the weight of the world shifted on my shoulders. The past collided with the storm, and I stood at the edge of what could change everything. My heart raced at the revelation of this enigmatic figure standing before me, fear and a sudden rush of hope spiraling through my veins. What did they mean? What had I unwittingly stumbled into? The wind howled through the doorframe, carrying with it a chill that reached deep into my bones. I stood there, staring into the shadowy figure whose face remained partially concealed. Time seemed to stretch into an endless moment, thick with the tension that boiled just beneath the surface. My mind raced, caught between the need for answers and the instinctual dread that whispered warnings of danger. "Lily, don't." My mother's voice quivered, breaking the silence. She stepped forward, her hand reaching hesitantly to my shoulder, grounding me against the precarious abyss of uncertainty. Her eyes bore into mine with a fierce protectiveness, and I could feel her heart beating in time with my own, both anxious, both hopeful. It's okay, Mom," I managed to choke out, though I could feel the palpable tension in the air. This stranger was not just a ghost of my imagination. They felt real, and their presence ignited a flicker of recognition buried deep within me. "I need to know what they want," I whispered almost to myself. "Please just listen to me." The figure stepped forward into the light, and as they did, I gasped at the sight. The hood fell back to reveal short, tousled hair framing a face I thought I would never see again. Evan, my childhood friend, the boy who had vanished from my life without a word. now stood before me as if summoned from a dream. I felt the world tilt. Evan. I breathed, disbelief melding into a rush of emotions: relief, confusion, anger. Where have you been? I thought I know, he interrupted, his voice taut with urgency. I had to leave. Everything is complicated. But I'm here now because I need your help. His words struck like lightning, fracturing the delicate balance of my thoughts. My help? For what? I demanded, my voice harder than I intended. The echo of the eviction notice lurking in my thoughts, threatening to overshadow this reunion. I can't even help myself right now, I promise. It's connected, he urged, his eyes pleading. You have to trust me. There are people who know about your situation, and they can help. But we need to act fast before it's too late. The storm is just the beginning. I felt a tremor run through me, a mingling of fear and excitement. How could the boy I once laughed with during summer nights in the park suddenly be speaking in cryptic riddles? A part of me longed to dive deeper into the friendship we once shared. Yet another part pulled back the nagging thought of how everything in my life seemed precarious and unpredictable. My mother stepped in closer, her voice low and guarded. What do you mean, Evan? Is there danger? Why should we trust you? Because, he said, glancing over his shoulder as if the darkness itself was a living specter pursuing him. Because I care. I never wanted to leave you two like that. And now, there are people who won't stop until they find what they're looking for. I can help you avoid that. What people? I asked, my heart racing with a mix of hope and fear. What are we talking about? He took a deep breath, his gaze locking onto mine. It's about your father. He was involved in something far beyond what we knew, something dangerous. He was trying to protect you both, and I think his ties, his past could help us. But we need to understand it before it's too late. My breath caught in my throat. My father who had left before I could remember. A ghost in the corners of my memory. He had become the thread woven into the fabric of my fears. A constant reminder of unfulfilled promises and unanswered questions. What does this have to do with us? I stumbled over the words, the shock racing through me like the lightning flashing outside. There are people after the secrets he kept. They think you might have something that can lead them to him. Secrets that could unravel everything, including your lives. Evan's eyes darkened, and I felt the weight of his revelation pressing down on my chest. My world shattered at the implications. The eviction notice, the looming darkness, and now the storm that was not just raging outside but had found its way into my life, threatening to bring everything down around me. But amidst the turmoil, the flickering ember of hope reignited. I had one thread of connection left. Evan was here. If we can understand what my father was hiding, maybe we can not just survive but fight back. Evan finished, a flicker of determination igniting in his gaze. As the rain pounded against the windows, an unexpected realization settled deep in my gut. I was standing at a crossroads, with darkness swirling around me. But I could either yield to the fear or step forward into the unknown alongside Evan. Our paths had crossed again beneath the weight of these revelations. But would I have the courage to follow where they led? Let's do this. I found my voice, stronger than I felt. Tell me what we need to do. But just as he opened his mouth to respond, a crash echoed from the back of the house, louder than before, reverberating against the walls like a war drum. My stomach twisted painfully. What now? My voice was a whisper, the fragile hope once again caught in the storm, ready to shatter at the slightest push. Evan's expression turned serious, and I could see the urgency return to his eyes. We need to go. Now. A realization weighed heavy on me. We had only exchanged a few words, yet the path ahead looked more perilous than I had imagined. I exchanged a glance with my mother, whose worry mirrored my own, a unit built on prior storms weathered together, yet now fractured by the dark unknown. As we prepared to follow Evan, I felt a rush of dread mixed with exhilaration. In this storm of uncertainty, I recognized the first step of a journey that could redefine everything. The door before us swung open with a force of its own, spilling chaos into our lives, far beyond the storm outside. But the fight for answers and survival promised to be just the beginning. The shadows danced against the walls as we hurried from the small, dimly lit room, each corner revealing new layers of the fear that gripped us. Evan led the way, urgency propelling him forward, while my mother and I followed closely, hearts pounding in sync with the torrential downpour outside. Each step felt heavy, laden with the weight of the unknown as we crossed the threshold into the hallway. I couldn't shake the feeling that something far more significant was unraveling than I had grasped in that fleeting moment of reunion. My father's past had unfurled before me like an ancient scroll, etched with secrets I had never been meant to discover. How had he become a ghost in his own life, and why did Evan seem so intertwined with that legacy? Questions clawed at my insides. Where do we even go? My voice cracked, the urgency of the moment overshadowing any semblance of certainty I had managed to muster. I glanced back at the door as if it might slam shut behind us, sealing away the reality I had known, no matter how painful it had been. Evan paused briefly, casting a worried glance over his shoulder. There's a safe house nearby, just outside town where we can regroup and plan. They can help you. Who is they? My mother interjected, her protective instincts lighting a fire in her eyes. How do we know we can trust you? You have to trust me, Mom. I felt an uncharacteristic boldness surge within me as I reached for her arm. Evan's our connection to this truth. We might not have any other choice. A truth that has put us in danger, she replied, her voice trembling yet resolute. I could sense her cautious optimism battling against the fear that gripped her heart like a vice. Before Evan could respond, the echo of footsteps reverberated through the hallway behind us, a sound that sent a shockwave of terror slamming through my chest. We don't have much time, he urged, his expression shifting to one of sheer determination. Follow me. We darted down the narrow corridor, flinging ourselves towards the back of the house. I could taste the metallic tang of fear in the air as adrenaline coursed through my veins. A simple glance between my mother and me spoke of shared vulnerabilities, and I silently vowed to protect her at all costs. Once outside, the rain lashed against us, soaking us to the skin in an instant. The storm raged around us, mirroring the turmoil that churned within my heart. Lightning illuminated the path ahead sporadically, revealing the overgrown weeds that flanked our escape. The darkness was palpable, yet I felt a small spark ignite a glimmer of defiance against the chaos swirling around us. Evan led us to an old truck parked at the edge of the property. The vehicle looked like a relic dug up from a scrap yard, its paint chipped and rusted. We have to go, he insisted, his hands fumbling to unlock the door as the rain poured down relentlessly, drenching us beneath its torrent. Are we really doing this? I asked, unsure if I wanted to take that leap into the unknown. The doubts crept into my mind like insidious whispers, wrapping around my thoughts and threatening to pull me back into the safe cocoon of the life I knew. We don't have a choice. Trust me, Evan replied, urgency etched into every line of his face. With a reluctant breath, I nodded, scrambling into the back of the truck while my mother climbed in next to me. The cramped space was shadowy, a stark contrast to the chaos outside. I could feel the palpable tension in the air. It was as if we had crossed an invisible threshold into a realm where uncertainty ruled supreme. Evan slid into the driver's seat, and as he turned the key in the ignition, the engine sputtered to life, a small miracle amidst the overwhelming dread. With a swift glance in the rearview mirror, he pressed the gas pedal down, and the truck jolted forward, tearing us away from our past and into an uncertain future. But the reprieve was short-lived. Moments later, the sound of another vehicle roared to life behind us, headlights cutting through the storm like daggers. My breath hitched, the reality of our situation crashing down. We weren't just fleeing, we were being pursued. Hold on, Evan shouted, the panic palpable in his voice as he veered off the beaten path, tires spinning against the saturated ground. My heart raced, each bump in the road jarring my thoughts into frantic disarray. Who are they? I managed to gasp, trembling as I clutched the edge of the seat. I don't know, Evan muttered, his determination dimming under the weight of uncertainty. But they know about your father. We have to lose them. They can't find us. As the storm raged outside, I grasped my mother's hand, fighting the encroaching waves of despair. We need to know what he was hiding. I said as much to myself as to her, the words spilling out in a desperate attempt to cling to the purpose that had pulled us into this chaos. But just as I opened my mouth to voice my worries, an explosion of sound shattered the air, a blast that rattled the truck. Glass shattered, flying shards catching the light briefly, illuminating the terror etched on my mother's face before darkness enveloped the space once more. Evan swerved sharply, the truck spinning violently, and in that harrowing moment, I saw the world spiral around me as if drawn into a vortex of uncertainty and fear, and then, just as abruptly as it began, everything went black. The stillness that followed was suffocating, a blanket of silence enveloping the chaos and confusion. I blinked, desperately trying to regain my bearings. Yet for a moment, it felt like a cruel joke orchestrated by fate. My heart thudded in my chest, and I could feel the tremors of fear coursing through my veins as the remnants of shattered glass crunched beneath my palms. "Mama," I rasped, the desolation of my surroundings rendering my voice weak as I felt around for her. "Are you okay?" Panic choked my throat, the thick flavors of dread and disbelief mingling in a disorienting cocktail. "I am here. I'm here." Her voice was hoarse but steadfast, cutting through the heavy fog of my panic. She shifted beside me, struggling to regain her composure as her fingers brushed against my cheek, grounding me in that dark void. "We need to stay calm." Evan's voice broke through the silence, frantically assessing the situation. "We have to get out of here now," he urged, but even he was straining under the weight of disorientation. Fear crackled in the air, tangible and ominous. I pushed myself up, forcing my vision to adjust to the gloom. Through the cracks where the truck's windows used to be, I could see the glimmer of headlights approaching, menacing and relentless. "Are they coming for us?" I stammered, my eyes darting around the interior, searching for a weapon, a chance, anything to protect my mother. Evan pushed the door open, the metal creaking ominously as he stepped into the storm's chaotic embrace. "We can't stay in here. They'll find us," he shouted, his voice piercing through the rushing rain. "Wait," I cried, leaping out of the truck after him. The air was thick, laden with rain and tension, making every inhale feel like a Herculean task. I quickly grasped my mother's arm, feeling her tremble under my grasp. The uncertainty loomed over us like a dark cloud, threatening to swallow us whole. Evan glanced back at us, his mind racing, a flicker of determination igniting in his eyes. "We need to move. There's a cabin nearby that I know about. It's our best shot." "Where?" I asked, my voice trembling as I glanced back, the headlights illuminating the space behind us with sinister urgency. "Follow me," he shouted as he took off into the underbrush, water squelching beneath his boots. I could hear my mother's shaky breaths beside me, and I tightened my grip on her, reassuring myself as much as her. The darkness swallowed us as we pushed through the trees, branches scraping against our soaked clothing, but I didn't care. Every step was a battle against the anxiety threatening to pull me under. Yet, amidst the dread, small sparks of resolve flickered in the back of my mind. What if, by surviving this, we could uncover the truth about my father? I didn't understand all the pieces yet, but I felt deep down that they would fit together somehow. With each stride, my focus honed in not just on escape, but on the whispers of hope nestled within the chaos. The memory of my father, of who he was supposed to be, invoked lingering warmth in this otherwise frightful night, a symbol of resilience that now felt like a beacon drawing me onward. Suddenly, Evan halted, holding out his hand. "We're here," he whispered, urgency threading his voice as he gestured toward a dilapidated cabin hidden amongst the thicket. Shadows clung to its wooden exterior, as if it had stood sentinel through storms far worse than this. "Are you sure it's safe?" my mother asked, her eyes scanning the darkness, not fully convinced that it has to be. "We don't have other options." Nerves tightened my throat as I nodded, the weight of our predicament pressing down almost unbearably. I pushed forward, stepping through the threshold behind Evan and my mother, gasping as the scent of damp wood and earth enveloped me warmly, a contrast to the relentless storm outside. Inside, the cabin felt like an echo of life once lived, the sound of rain a soothing yet eerie serenade reverberating against the walls. A single window overlooked the trees, but the view felt deceptive, an amalgamation of safety and danger. "We need to barricade the door," Evan said urgently, scanning the room for something to obstruct our entrance. My hands fumbled over the furniture, moving a table against the door frame while my mother grabbed an old lantern, desperately attempting to light a flame as its long-forgotten wick sputtered. Then, in the pale glow, we found solace in our small circle. "We must stay quiet," Evan whispered, pressing his finger to his lips. "If they can't hear us, we have a chance." Questions throbbed in my mind, a beehive of curiosity and dread. "What do you know about them? Why are they after us?" I pressed, staring desperately at Evan. Searching for clarity, he looked at me, breath hitching as his expression shifted slightly, the shadows flickering with unspoken realizations. "It's about your father, and the truth he carried with him. But there's something else that's bigger than I could have ever imagined." The flickering of the lantern cast a frantic light across his face, illuminating hints of fear mingling with determination, compelling me to press closer. "Tell me," I demanded softly, urgency coursing through my veins. "What do you mean?" But just as the air thickened with unspoken secrets, a chilling noise sliced through the cabina cacophony of shuffling outside, boots crunching through the fallen branches, a hint of laughter that sent shivers racing down my spine. "Jesus, they're here," Evan breathed, panic blaring in his voice as I felt the walls closing in, our collective breath ceasing in shared realization. But we weren't just somewhere unknown, we were at the edge of a revelation, and the storm both within and outside raged on, the true tempest of our lives yet to be faced. And as the shadows grew longer and the voices got closer, I couldn't shake the feeling that our lives were irrevocably intertwined in a web of hidden truths that had yet to unravel. The air thickened with a chilling tension, heavy enough to drown out the sound of the relentless rain splattering against the cabin's roof. My heart raced, thudding against my ribcage as if to remind me that this was real, an unforgiving reality that had hijacked the simplicity of yesterday and transformed it into a nightmare. Evan's eyes flared with desperation as he pressed his back against the barricaded door, his breath ragged under the weight of fear that pressed down on us. "Hurry and hide," he hissed, his voice barely above a whisper. I felt my mother grasp my arm tightly, her fingers trembling as if she was trying to physically anchor me to reality. It was unsettling how the ghosts of our past collided with the shadows of our present in this moment of impending doom. We scrambled behind an old, dusty sofa that had seen better days, its fabric grimy with age and neglect, but it was a refuge from the outside world. I tried to center my racing thoughts, to drown out the chaos brewing beyond the wooden door, but my mind spun in circles, chasing fragments of hope against the backdrop of darkness. Evan's voice quivered as he murmured, "Just stay quiet, no matter what." I nodded, even though the words fell heavier than I could admit. I was terrified, an overwhelming sense of helplessness washing over me like the incessant rain outside. What if they found us? What if this was the end? Time stretched, warping around us, filling the cabin with a suffocating silence until the sounds outside grew louder. The unmistakable crunch of gravel and twigs betrayed the intruders' movements as they approached. Laughter, the kind that sent chills creeping down my spine, echoed through the night air, an unsettling contrast to the rain pounding against the roof. "Mama," my voice trembled as I whispered, not wanting to break the silence. She turned, her eyes filled with a mixture of fear and reassurance. "We'll get through this," she whispered back, but I could see the uncertainty lurking just beneath her composed "Do you remember what Dad used to say?" I asked, desperate to grasp onto any shred of comfort amidst the storm brewing outside both the cabin and within. "He always believed in the power of facing our fears, that hope never truly dies, even in the darkest of times." "Yes, he did," she replied, a soft smile ghosting across her lips until it faded away. "But this is different." Evan glanced back at us, his face a mask of concentration, as the footsteps shuffled closer. "Shoo," he warned, adjusting his position, readying himself for whatever would come next. The murmur of voices grew more distinct, punctuated by the creak of wooden boards as they tested the perimeter. "You think they'll find us?" I whispered, my voice trembling like the flickering lantern still fighting for its flame in the corner. "They might," Evan admitted, his eyes darting to the door, then back to us. "But that's why we have to be quiet." We can't let them know we're here. With every word, my heart ached for the father I once knew. The laughter of a young girl scanning the sky for shooting stars, dreaming of a life beyond the ordinary. The man who had promised me stories, adventure, and a future full of boundless possibilities. My memories collided with the harshness of our present, stitching a tapestry of fear and longing between my heart and the turbulent night surrounding us. Suddenly, a loud bang echoed against the cabin's door, sending my pulse racing and panic coursing through my veins. What was that? I gasped, clutching my mother's arm tighter, bracing for the worst. Just keep quiet, Evan urged, but his voice was laced with a tightness that betrayed his own fraying nerves. The door rattled again, and I couldn't help but envision the end dreams and hopes shattered like glass around us. Just then, the lantern flickered erratically before its flame finally snuffed out, plunging us into a thick, oppressive darkness that felt almost suffocating. We were ensconced in an abyss of fear, a silence so loud it roared in my ears like a tempest that I strained to hear their voices, but they were muffled. Now, consumed by the encroaching shadows. Was this the end? Would I ever know the truth about my father or find a path forward from this chaos? Then, a glimmer of light pierced the darkness, slicing through like a beacon of hope, an unexpected sliver of illumination from the kitchen area, where an old timer rested ominously against the wall. It flickered defiantly, pushing back against the night, as if challenging the encroaching dread threatening to engulf us. Evan, do you see that? I whispered, my heart skipping a beat. He straightened, the bright light reflecting off his wide, alarmed eyes. Suddenly, the noise outside intensified, a body crashing against the back of the cabin. Wooden beams creaked under the weight of their urgency. But what startled me the most was a voice that drifted through the Dina familiar tone that sent shivers crawling across my skin. Find them. I know they're in here. My breath caught, realization slicing through the thick veil of confusion. It was a voice shaped by blood and memories. This was someone I had hoped to keep distant from our troubles. A name that had built a chasm between us and shattered trust into countless shards. Mama, do you hear that? I stammered, the gnawing dread coiling itself around my heart. It's him. It's my father's alive. In that moment of revelation, despair and hope clashed, the storm raging unchecked around us as the secret I had been searching for came clawing back to the surface. But with his voice echoed a chilling reminder the storm was far from over. The truth that lurked just outside the cabin could change everything, igniting flames of conflict and terror that were only beginning to take shape as the sound of heavy boots continued to crash against the earth. I realized we were standing on the precipice of a truth that wouldn't just unravel my past, but redefine not only who I was, but what was truly at stake. The darkness loomed ever closer, consuming the cabin, and I knew I would have to face this, ready or not. The darkness enveloped us, a heavy shadow that felt alive with the uncertainty of the past and an ominous present. My heart drummed a frantic tempo, balancing between the thrill of discovery and the fear of what might come next. I pressed my hands against my mother's to steady their trembling, my own fingers shaking in response. Evan, I whispered urgently, my eyes searching his for clarity. What do we do? It felt unthinkable that the man I had long thought lost might be out there. But now, the reality tugged at my heart with a ferocity that demanded to be acknowledged. Listen, he said, his voice a taut wire of tension. We need to stay quiet and stay hidden. If he's here, we can't let him find us. Not yet. Yet, how could I remain silent? A part of me longed to shout out to him, to bridge the chasm of silence that had grown since he vanished from my life. I remembered our old home, his laughter mixing with the sunlight streaming through the kitchen window as he made pancakes on lazy Sunday mornings. But that warmth was distant now, turned to an icy memory shaped by years of absence and heartache. The door rattled violently, a sickening creak echoing through the log cabin as the intruders outside grew restless. I could hear the ringleader barking commands with an authority that was unsettling. Search every room. They can't be far. The tone of his voice sent ice shooting through my veins. I recognized the rough edges of familiar contempt, the sneering betrayal cloaked in fabricated concern. The The sound of a swung flashlight slicing through the gloom crackled in my ears like a distant thunderstorm, revealing momentary glimpses of furniture and jagged shadows. "Mama, I'm scared," I whispered, the raw vulnerability cutting through the walls I had tried to build around me. My mother's fragile hand enveloped mine, her other hand brushing through my hair in a tender gesture. "I know, sweet girl," she murmured, though her voice trembled. "You need to be brave. We can't let fear take hold of us." Evan crouched low, his eyes darting between us and the door, his shoulders tense like a coiled spring. "If we can just wait it out, they'll stop looking eventually." I could sense the doubt in his voice, a silent warranty that he was fighting against just as much as we were. But doubt grew like weeds in my heart. Could I really believe that if my father was out there, if he had truly returned, he would ever want to see me again? A cacophony of conflicting emotions echoed through Meerleaf mixed with heartache. Hope torn apart by lurking regrets. "What if he doesn't want me?" I whispered, tears pricking the corners of my eyes. "What ifs don't matter right now?" Evan snapped, his voice breaking with a sudden surge of frustration. "I know you're hurting, but we have to think. If he's looking for us..." His sentence halted abruptly, and a moment of chilling realization washed over us all like a cold wave. If my father was searching for us amid this chaos, was he still the same man I once idolized, or had the darkness like the storm outside changed him in unimaginable ways? The unsettling question hung heavy in the air, weaving through the silence like an unwelcome specter. I felt the ground beneath me shift, uncertainty knotting in my stomach. It was as if every thought I had about him, the stories I adorned with nostalgia, had twisted into something sinister, now tainted with fear and doubt. "Listen." Evan's intense whisper broke through my spiraling thoughts. The sounds outside had momentarily quieted, replaced by a rattling bray of the coveted silence steeped in anticipation. Moments stretched into eternity as we held our breath, clinging to the quiet like a life raft, and then, a voice this time softer, but unmistakably pained filtered through the wooden walls, high-pitched and desperate. "I know you're scared, but I can help you. Just come out. I promise I won't hurt you." I recognized it instantly. My father's voice woven with sorrow and something else, an echo of the love I once had for him, tainted now with uncertainty. "Dad?" I breathed out, involuntarily drawn towards the sound as the flickering hope wrestled with the truth of what had been lost. But before I could process the impulse to respond, Evan gripped my wrist tightly. "Don't," he warned, a deep frown creasing his brow. "We can't trust him. We've come too far." I flinched at his words, wounded by the implication. Yet something about that voice called to the soul I thought had been lost, unraveling the tightly woven history I had tried to compartmentalize into neat boxes. He knocked again, this time more insistently. "Please, you have to believe me. I'm here for you." Tremors of internal conflict roared through me. Was he really back? Was this a breadcrumb of hope I dared to grasp? Or was it another trap designed to ensnare the remnants of my shattered reality? A sharp bang resonated against the back wall, shaking our cabin, breaking my reverie. "They're getting in," Evan hissed, panic lacing his tone. With that, adrenaline surged within me. A blend of fear and fierce protectiveness ignited my instincts. My eyes were wide and frantic, darting from Evan to my mother to the door, scrambling for an answer, for a decision that could change everything. And just as quickly, I felt the rush of resolve rise within me. "Wait, what if I hesitated?" The words teetering on the precipice of my lips. "What if he really is here to help?" "Mara," Evan's voice was harsh. "You can't seriously be considering." But I stood taller, the blend of emotions swirling around, creating a tempest of determination within me. I didn't know if I was ready, but hope had been taught to me as an indomitable flame. With it came the whisper of a choice. And suddenly, I grasped the terrifying truth: it was now or never. As I took a step toward the door, the sound of thunder boomed above us, rekindling the memories of storms past, accompanied by the celibate bass of our fears transformed into a fierce storm anew. The door quaked beneath my touch, a threshold revealing more than just face. It could unveil the truth I had long sought. In that moment, as the voice outside called my name once again, heavy with a weight of longing and desperation, I felt the gravity of my decision settle upon my chest. To venture beyond that door was to dive into the unknown, fully aware that it might either save everything I held dear or cast me down into an abyss of unfathomable darkness. With one last deep breath, I whispered, "I have to know." The final tremor in my heartbeat chewed on the edge of uncertainty. Ready or not, fate was about to unfold a revelation that was irrevocable and bittersweet. The door trembled beneath my fingertips, a fragile barrier that stood between my past and an intangible future. The voice lingered in my mind, a haunting invitation that dared me to hope against all reason. The weight of Evan's hesitation pressed on me as I sought the horizon beyond my memories. Where a father once stood, shielding me from harm, Mara. Evan's voice was sharp, piercing through the fog of hope. But the urgency in his tone only served to intensify my resolve. Listening to him would mean turning my back on the last flicker of connection I had left. "You don't have to do this. We can find another way." Through trembling lips, I whispered, what if he really is here to protect us?" The words felt simultaneously absurd and essential. I could hear the equally tenuous beat of my heart echoing in the stillness as uncertainty surged within me. "What if he's just playing with your head?" Evan shot back, frustration smoldering in his eyes. "You've spent the last few years convincing yourself that he's a victim of circumstance. But you don't know who he is now. He's become." I swallowed hard, anguish mixing with the desire for closeness. "But what if he's still the man I loved?" A pause stretched too long, filled with Evan's disbelief and my desperate longing. Suddenly, the door rattled violently, a primal force crashing against the thin wood. The relentless pounding sent jolts of adrenaline through my veins as I looked back at my mother, who now gripped the edge of the table like it was her last lifeline. Fear reflected in her wide eyes, brimming with memories of a bond that was slipping through my fingers like sand. "Please, Mara." The voice trembled again from the other side, sadness and regret woven tightly together. "I'm so sorry for everything. I need you to trust me. Just listen to me this once." Tears began to pool in my eyes, betrayals and truths swirling like an uncontainable storm within me. I had finally reached the moment I had long yearned for, a chance to connect with my father once again. But who would I find on the other side? Was he a whisper of the man I missed, or a shadow lurking in darkness? With a steadying breath, I pressed my palm against the door, feeling the wild heartbeat of what lay beyond. "If you're really him, then show me," I pleaded with the universe, a confession snatched in the chaos. "Show me that you love me. Open the door." A new voice suddenly cut through the tension, deeper and rougher, commanding authority that painted my skin cold. Evan's grip tightened around my wrist, panic threading through his whispers. "Mara, no. Don't let him in. We have to escape." My heart thudded wildly at the shift, the urgency of the moment threading through my mind like a tormented chord. The voice outside softened again, this time with raw desperation. "Mara, you don't understand. I've changed. I can't let them find you. I'm trying to help you, please." The gravity of choice wrapped its fingers around me, holding me hostage. My breath caught in my throat as I shifted between the two worlds, each one demanding loyalty but giving nothing in return. The door was the boundary, a line of demarcation that would reveal everything or obliterate my hope entirely. And just as I steadied my resolve, the door burst open, flinging me backwards. The sudden rush of air filled my lungs with a gasp as I stumbled, disoriented. The figure stood there, shrouded in the darkness, illuminated only by the flickering candlelight within. "Dad?" My voice trembled like the flame of a near-extinguished candle. The man stepped forward, his frame familiar yet so foreign that it twisted my stomach into knots. "Mara," he breathed, his voice breaking as he stepped into the light, revealing tired lines etched across his face, shadows haunting his once warm eyes. Before he could finish, Evan stepped protectively in front of me, a wall of muscle and determination. "Stay back," he roared, and I felt the moment shift in a heartbeat. The world seemed to sway, engulfed by the throbbing of my heart as I grasped the reality. "No, don't hurt him," I cried out, the plea bursting forth as the truth sank heavy into meth agony of separation. the loss gnawing at me, the love still etched within my heart. He's my father. The struggle of emotions skirmished in the spaces between us. My mother stood behind me, her eyes wide and searching, reluctant yet fervent with an unyielding hope, one that had nearly withered amid the years of turmoil. "Stop!" I cried, tears streaming down my cheeks as I took a step toward the abyss, ready to leap into the unknown. Fears morphed into fragile filament of tenderness, aching to mend what had been shattered. I need to know why now, why this? As I reached for him, a sudden, vivid flash of movement swirled behind us. The figures outside, ominous silhouettes creeping closer, shadows growing alive with an energy that pulsed against the chill of the cabin walls. My father's expression shifted, a flicker of panic igniting as he glanced over his shoulder, back toward the darkness. "They're coming," he shouted, as if the mention alone could preserve my sanity amidst the dread. Just as the air thickened with dread, the door slammed shut, a resounding clang that echoed through the cabin. My mother gasped, the fabric of tension shattering us all frozen in that breathless moment. As fear tightened its grip, my father glanced back at me, a shared desperation passing between us like an unquenched fire. "Mara, we have to go. Now, trust me." But his words hung in the air, thick with unspoken truths, and the weight of uncertainty grew heavier. My heart raced as the shadows expanded, a revelation fast approaching, one that could either reunite us in the bond one so desperately craved or destroy any hope of healing we had left. And then came the sound, an unmistakable crack of splintering, wood resonating through the moody air as they sought to breach our sanctuary. The fracture of safety gaped open, and with it came the onslaught of chaos. Caught between despair and the flicker of fading courage, I held on to the moment of my decision, stamping my resolve deep. If there was a chance, however slim, to rekindle what remained, I had to dive into the looming darkness before no matter the cost. The cabin trembled with anticipation, the chaos outside morphing the creaks of wood into ominous whispers. My mind raced, caught in a tempest of conflicting emotions. The history that lay between me and the man before me was tangled, like thorns wrapped around a delicate bloom. I could feel the presence of what might have been suffocating beneath the weight of reality. "Why now?" I managed, my voice small and tremulous. "After all this time?" He took a shaky breath, his gaze earnest, searching for a way to bridge the gap that had grown so monumental over years of silence. "Because I've been lost, Mara. I was on the wrong side of everything, and I had to confront my demons before I could even think of coming back to you." "Just admit it," Evan interjected, his tone fierce but simmering with an undercurrent of fear, his body still rigid and ready to protect. "You think you can waltz back into her life and everything will just magically be okay? She's been living in your absence. Don't you see how fragile she is?" His words cut into the air like glass, sharp and cruel. I glanced at Evan, gratitude mixed with anguish as he took a step back but maintained his stance, a vigilant protector against my unpredictable heart. I feared to lose Evan, too, in the emotional tremors of this fateful moment. But my father remained unfazed, his focus solely on me, the shadows of his past flitting across his features. "Just listen, please. There are things I need to explain about why I left, what I was trying to shield you from. I can't let you become a victim of the choices I made." With an electric clarity, I realized that even in his turmoil, he had not strayed far from his paternal role. There was pain in his eyes, but also a fierce determination that hinted at a desire to protect. I wanted to believe in him, to grasp onto the threads of hope that still lingered in the air, but the ache of doubt gnawed relentlessly at my insides. Suddenly, a muffled scream split through the cracking tumult from outside. My heart clawed at my chest as I turned toward the door, the sinister shadows pulsating closer to our sanctuary. "Mara, we have to go," my father commanded, an edge of urgency slicing through his previous tone. I could see the contours of his face shifting as fear crept in, realizing that time was slipping through our fingers like sand. Evan reached for me, his eyes earnest yet marred with worry. "We can't stay here, Mara. You don't owe him anything." His voice trembled as he pressed closer, his determination providing a flicker of solidity amidst the swirling chaos. But something deep within urged me to stay, to confront this specter from my past that had hung over me like a cloud. What if this is our chance? I whispered, trying to catch the moment in my palm, a desperate hope igniting against a backdrop of despair. Before Evan could respond, my father took another step forward. I know I don't deserve your trust, but if you really want to understand why I left, you have to let me show you now, before it's too late. The door shuddered violently, a stark reminder of the imminent threat beyond it. The seductive pull of possibility swelled inside me, filling the hollow spaces of longing that had lain dormant for far too long. I wanted to grasp hold of this moment like a lifeline, yet the uncertainty painted my heart in dark strokes of fear. Together, we can face whatever is out there, my father urged, taking another step closer. But it starts now. You have to believe in me, if not for me, then for you, for everything we could still have. The raw gravity of his words cascaded down, enveloping me in a warmth that felt both terrifying and exhilarating. I felt the tear at my very core, split between the love I had yearned for and the loyalty I owed Evan, whose comfort had been a steadfast beacon amidst the storms of my past. As the door crackled under the weight of what lay outside, I caught sight of Evan's face, desperation mingling with determination. "Mara, please, we can run. This isn't worth it," he pleaded, his voice rising with urgency. An unholy crack rippled through the door. Splinters scattered across the floor like fallen soldiers of my resolve. I turned back to my father, my heart pounding in a frantic rhythm. I was standing at the precipice of everything I had ever wanted or ever feared. "Will you protect us?" I asked, the question escaping my lips like a prayer. The weight of uncertainty hung thick, and I knew that stepping forward could unravel everything. But retreating felt like an invitation to miss the only chance I might have to know him, to understand the origins of the echo that had haunted my dreams. He nodded, and a flicker of vulnerability glimmered in his eyes. "Promise. But you must choose, Mara. Right now." And just like that, the choice bore down upon me, heavy and relentless. The shadows outside surged, emboldened by my uncertainty and fear. The door splintered once more, a crackle of noise breaking through the fragile hold I had on the world I once knew. In that moment, with the night erupting into chaos, I knew I could either step back into a past desperate for closure or leap forward into the unknown, hand in hand with a man I barely knew but who felt like the peace I had been longing for my entire life. But I could also lose everything, the little safety I had built alongside Evan, the love that deserved a chance. As the door flew open with a violent shudder, I felt time freeze for a moment, the weight of choice hanging palpably, ready to spiral my universe into uncertainty. Then, without thinking, I took a step forward. And in that instant, fate shifted, and my world transformed forever, shattering beneath my feet as the shadows rushed in. The moment I stepped into the chaos was like plunging into icy water. Shocking, numbing, and utterly consuming. My heart raced as faces emerged from the darkness, figures too familiar yet cloaked in shadowed intents. The raucous whispers of my father's voice dissolved into the cacophony, his presence entwining with the tempest we faced. "Get back inside," he yelled, urging Evan and my mother to retreat as the door burst wide open, revealing a figure, hulking and menacing, stepping through the threshold like a storm waiting to wreak havoc. "Your father isn't who you think he is," the newcomer bellowed, his voice ricocheting off the peeling walls of the cabin, vibrating through me like a strike of thunder. It was a voice I recognized too well, a voice that had haunted my childhood dreams, yet now was heavy with disdain rather than concern. "Caleb," I gasped, clutching at the splintered doorframe as memories morphed and twisted, revealing my father's past lived through another man's eyes. Caleb was our former neighbor, a man of thick fists and burdensome secrets, and he stood now, the gatekeeper of revelations that could either shatter what little remained of my hope or illuminate the truth buried beneath layers of lies. "Stay back. I'm not here to hurt you," my father barked, stepping forward like a shield against the disjointed reality crashing into us. "You don't understand what this is about." "But I do," Caleb shot back, advancing with an arrogance that sent ripples of rage through me. "You think showing your face after all these years will grant you redemption? You preyed on trust and left them vulnerable while you danced in the darkness. Stop! I screamed, catching both men off guard. My voice reverberated against the cabin walls, an echo of desperation clawing for air. I could no longer withstand the mounting tension, the conflicting loyalties tearing at the fabric of my heart. My breaths were labored, uncertainty blurring the edges of my vision. What happened? Why is everything so tangled? Caleb's expression twisted, anger battling with a flicker of regret. Your father made choices that put you in danger. Don't you see? He locked you away from the truth, trapped you in a world of lies. No, Mara. My father interjected, his voice imperative, weaving through the storm. I was trying to protect you. I didn't want you to live a life tethered to the darkness of my past. But your past haunts me, Dad. I retorted, the pain of every unanswered question slicing through my resolve. Everything spiraled out of control because of your choices. I faced the repercussions, the loneliness. I need you to just tell me what I deserve to know. Caleb's eyes widened slightly, as if grappling with the sudden swell of raw emotion encompassing us all. You need to know the truth about the dealings your father was complicit in. They're not secrets meant for a child. They're entanglements that could ruin your life. In that heartbeat, it seemed, the world around us shattered, leaving only fragments of memory to cascade like shards of glass. My father's face flickered between pride and shame, shadows etching furrows along his brow. He had evaded this moment for so long, and I could see the bubbling remorse that threatened to swallow him whole. Go. He shouted back at Caleb, desperation anchoring his words, yet uncertainty undercutting them. Whatever lies you think you know, they're worse than even that. I'll protect them. Protect them? Caleb sneered, weaving forward, his voice growing dangerously low. You think you can shield them from the truth? From those who will come for what you owe? You will never escape your past. Before I realized I had moved, the words sprang unbidden from my mouth. You're right. I want to hear the truth. Both of you. I extended my trembling hands, wanting desperately to grasp at clarity, as if it could manifest in the tattered darkness around us. The storm roared outside, mirroring the turmoil that raged within me. Mara. Evan rasped from beside me, his hand resting on my shoulder, grounding yet fervent. You don't need to do this. Choose safety over confusion. No. I bellowed into the maelstrom, feeling the edges of my heart fracture further. I need to know why my father left. The pain from being abandoned has twisted into part of who I am. I can't keep running. The air crackled with intensity, our purpose igniting flames of vulnerability amidst the chaos swirling just beyond the threshold. It was both terrifying and intoxicating. This dance upon the precipice of loss and discovery. With that, I stepped out further from behind the barrier, the frayed edges of hope flickering in the looming shadow of my father. Tell me. As silence encased us, Caleb's expression softened just slightly. All right, he said, his tone shifting away from aggression. But you need to be prepared. The world isn't what you think. It's filled with darkness that bleeds into light, but hope can coexist with both. Your father was part of something that was never meant for you. We need to go, Mara, Evan whispered urgently. Yet I felt rooted. The weight of truths long buried beckoned me to uncover them. Tell me everything, I pleaded, heart hammering against my chest, each beat echoing a fragile resolve. And as the shadows loomed closer, what was once buried began to unfurl before meth possibility that truth could ultimately wield the power to break me free or propel me into the heart of everything hidden. A new level of resolve ignited as Caleb began to share layers of deceit, and the hidden world my father had been ensnared by, the dangers that lurked just outside our sanctuary. The storm battered against the walls, each crash of thunder serving as a reminder of the tempest that had drawn us together, churning memories into revelation, pushing the secrets of the past into the heart of the present. As I absorbed the intricacies of his story, the realization came crashing in with unstoppable force. It was more than just darkness. It was a guidepost leading straight to redemption. Standing on the edge of truth, I turned toward my father. I want you to be a part of my life, but it has to be real. Now we all must confront it together. Evan moved closer, eyes lit with fierce determination. Well, protect each other. That's what family is about, and that anchor will guide us through whatever storm comes next. The emotions surged through mere lives were like tangled strands in a cosmic web, deftly sewn into a quilt of unspoken vulnerabilities. But finally, here, standing together amidst the looming chaos, I felt the tightrope of uncertainty giving way to a new path forged through truth. And as the storm raged on, we embraced the unknown together, hearts united beneath the promise of rebirth, knowing that someday, we would find the way home wherever that may lead us. And that poignant moment, I whispered, no matter what we face, I choose love over fear. The words hung in the air, a powerful reminder that in the depths of chaos, there was still time to rewrite a brighter narrative. As shadows danced, peace settled around the raw edges of our fears, and our hearts aligned toward the light ahead.